Morning, all. All right, so Friday, February the 16th, we've got a News of the Day video for all you fine people, as well as previewing the one game there is tonight in the National Hockey League. Tomorrow we have 13. And then on Sunday there's 3, and they're all early games. And then Monday it's hockey all day again. So, starting off with the Calgary Flames. Coming off that loss last night, they have recalled Dryden Hunt. So, fourth liner, guy who can fill in and be a 13th forward as well. Schwint has been sent down to the Wranglers, as well as Dustin Wolf. Wolf had a rough night last night, not going to lie. And I think it's probably best for him to be in the minors, at least for today. But they've put Vladar back on the active roster. He's no longer in the injured reserve. So things are good in net right now for Calgary. Of course, there's all the Markstrom rumors, but there isn't anything concrete right now other than the talks are still going on. Fleury wants to stay in Minnesota, knows there might be an opportunity to get traded, might consider it at the time, but he feels that Minnesota's still in the hunt and that he can help them maybe get to that playoff spot. So he wants to stay. He wants to be part of the turnaround in Minnesota, and we'll see what happens come deadline time for Marc-Andre Fleury. He's earned the right that if he wants to stay, he should be allowed to, and if he wants to get traded, well, then he should have the right to that as well. Mason Shaw was signed yesterday. He's at practice with the team today. This is good news. Mason Shaw, of course, had a torn ACL, which kept him unsigned until he was good to go. And after playing 9 games, I believe it was 9 games for the Iowa Wild, they have given him that contract. So Mason Shaw is signed through the end of this season, and we'll see if he earns himself a contract for next season as well. But again, good energy guy, solid pickup for a Minnesota team, and Minnesota fans know what they're getting. They've had Mason Shaw before. So UC Saros is available, but not really. So this is the way that it sounds from Pierre LeBrun, that, yeah, you can have yourself a UC Saros goaltender, but you're going to have to pay. And that package is going to involve a pretty good young player as well. Nashville intentionally setting the price pretty high. They don't want to trade Saros. They're happy to keep him. He's 28 years of age. Like, I've heard all the rumors about Saros and seen the discussions of whether or not Nashville might be better off moving him, especially if they're going into a rebuild. But how long is the rebuild expected to last? Is it going to be one of those long-term ones? It could be just like a 2-year retool. Either way, being 28, I think he's going to be in his prime for a while as a goaltender. He's proven that he is one of the best goaltenders in the league, and I understand why Nashville's not all that excited to trade him. I think once Askarov is ready, then we'll see a move with Saros. Before then, I don't think there's any pressure to do it. That being said, they have signed McCarron to an extension today. He gets a 2-year extension worth $900,000 per season. McCarron has been a very good fit in that bottom 6 with the Nashville Predators. I think he's had a really good season, most prominent he's been his whole career, and so it makes sense that he would want to stay there, and they'd want to keep him around. I think it's a perfect setup for Michael McCarron. Zub and Sanderson, both full participants at practice. As I reported yesterday, Zub is expected to play tomorrow. Sounds like Jake Sanderson should be back in there as well. So for an Ottawa team coming off of a pretty rough loss last night against Anaheim, it will be good to have Zub and Sanderson back for them. So we'll see if that helps them get things back on track after that rough loss last night. Keeping in mind that Ottawa was playing really well going into that game, and so they just have to rediscover it. Also, in the news today, the case against Milan Lucic has been dropped. Quietly dropped. His wife was not willing to testify. So it's a domestic abuse case, and if the wife's not willing to testify, apparently the 911 call that they wanted to use, the problem was she never said Lucic's name. She never said her name either. So the person on the phone with her didn't get those details. And it was declared it wasn't admissible in court. There was no actual, I'm the wife of Milan Lucic and he did this and this. So, yeah, once they threw that out, the prosecution had no choice but to drop it. They really didn't have a case without the 911 call or, in this case, Milan's wife as well. So, yeah, that case is gone. Now the question becomes one of what do the Boston Bruins do? What does the NHL do? The case is dropped, so there's no charges against him. I would say that by that standard, he should be back in the lineup for Boston, but I don't know what the NHL is going to do, and I'm not sure what the Boston Bruins are going to do either. It'll be interesting to watch and see how this all plays out. But yeah, so let me know your thoughts on that. Should he play? Should he not? And I know there'll be that torn. Well, the case has been dropped, so he should go back, and then there'll be others who say no. We have all this, and so yeah, it could still get messy from here, I guess. Jake Gensel. So it was revealed that he could be out up to 4 weeks. And the problem with this, of course, is that puts it past the trade deadline. The trade deadline's coming up in a couple of weeks here. 3 weeks from now is 3 weeks from. Anyways, we're about 3 weeks out from the trade deadline. I believe it's March the 8th. Meaning Gensel will be injured through that. So do they trade him? Does this drive the value down? Is also a question that you could ask. Will teams offer less for a player that's injured, or will they do their due diligence and say, you know what, we'll offer you what we would have offered you anyways because we believe he's going to be healthy and good to go and productive. But Gensel's an interesting one to keep an eye on and see what his value is. And we'll see whether or not he actually ends up being traded by the Penguins. Pittsburgh's not out of the race for a playoff spot, but again, it's going to be tough. They're 5 points back at Detroit right now for that last playoff spot in the East, and it is not going to be easy to catch because you've got other teams to jump over as well. It's not just a case of catching Detroit. So speaking of teams that have heated up and caught teams, St. Louis, they've now won 8 out of 10, so jersey being worn here. They're 9 points back of Winnipeg, which sounds like a lot, but Winnipeg hasn't been playing great hockey lately, so we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, 9 points back of Winnipeg, 4 points ahead of Nashville and Seattle, so they're in that number 2 wildcard spot. They are tied with LA. LA's played 2 less games than have the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis is 5 points ahead of Calgary and Minnesota. So St. Louis is in the driving seat here. If they can keep playing the way they've been playing, yeah, they'll be a playoff team, and we could see some separation. I was looking at the standings today. We don't really have separation between the haves and have-nots. Teams above and below the playoff line. This is around that time of year where we start seeing that separation. And then the trade deadline usually makes it much more pronounced, where some teams that were in the hunt just drop out and decide this isn't our year, we're going to trade players. Detroit comes to mind. Washington last year comes to mind as well. So we'll see who ends up doing that this year, but it looks like St. Louis is bound and determined to make the playoffs, and we'll see how dangerous they are should they get there. So one game tonight in the National Hockey League. It's on at 9 o'clock Eastern, which is 6 p.m. Pacific. It is Carolina, it is Arizona, and it's going to be an interesting one. Carolina won the first meeting 3-1 on January 27th. The Canes 30-17-5. Their last 10 games are 6-4, scoring 3.31 goals per game, allowing 2.88 goals against per game. Sebastian Aho's played really well this year. 19 goals, 38 assists, 57 points. You get a little above a point per game from Aho, and a good effort every night, so that's not too shabby. For Arizona, they're 23-25-4 on the season. They're 2-7-1 over their last 10, and they've really dropped out of the chase at this point. They're scoring 2.9 goals per game. They're allowing 3.13 goals against per game. Michelli, 8 goals, 26 assists, 34 points. Has been playing well lately. Had a goal recently as well. Like to see him get another. I do wonder, with the goalie market being as hot as it is, could Arizona make Vejmelka available and see what the price, what they could extract in exchange for Vejmelka, since the goalie market seems to be kind of stuck right now. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always, including your pick for this game tonight. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.